With God of War Ragnarok right around the corner, I, Suggestive Gaming, figured now would be a perfect time to catch up on what has led our heroes to where they currently stand. You may have already seen my video covering the original God of War saga, maybe even on someone else's channel, and if you haven't, I recommend you do so before watching this video, as it will pick up exactly where that one left off. The link is in the description or on screen now, so head over there and come back once you're done to get the full story. And now, without further ado, this is what you need to know about God of War Part 2. Sometime after bringing an end to the reign of the gods of Olympus, Kratos awakens to find himself denied of the comforts of death, and instead cursed to walk the earth as punishment for his deeds. Soon the blades of chaos return to him, and he attempts to throw them into the sea, only to find them mysteriously return to him after a night's sleep. Hoping to escape from his past to at least find some kind of solitude in his eternal punishment, Kratos sets sail to new lands, again attempting to rid himself of the blades. When Kratos reaches shore, he passes out, and when he awakens, he finds the blades waiting for him once again. He discards them again before coming across a village, where he is met by the inhabitants with fear. He soon learns from an old man that his legend as the Ghost of Sparta and the God of War is known in this land of the pharaohs. The man warns Kratos that he cannot escape his destiny, but Kratos simply knocks him aside and walks off. Kratos continues walking, sleeplessly, to avoid the blade's return. As days turn into months, Kratos eventually succumbs to his slumber and awakens again to find the blades of chaos before him. Refusing to allow his past to keep up with him, Kratos again leaves the blades behind and continues his trek, being taunted by various talking animals along the way who warn him of his destiny that lies ahead. Again, Kratos is overcome by exhaustion and passes out, finding Athena waiting for him in his dreams. The goddess tells Kratos that the two of them are not yet through with each other, and instructs him to return to his home and fulfill his purpose. Kratos then awakens, unsurprised to find the blades of chaos return to him once again. However, Kratos is surprised to find the old man from the village now before him, who instructs him to pick up the blades to prepare for battle, as the hour he will be needed is fast approaching. Kratos defiantly throws the blades aside again and continues walking, eventually reaching the same village he left months ago. While Kratos is confused at how he circled back to the village, he is soon distracted by the villagers, who are again fearful, but not of him this time. Instead, they beg for his help in fighting the giant Chaos Beast, which soon attacks the village. The villagers and the mysteriously present old man surmise that their prayers to the gods summoned Kratos back. Angered at the thought of the gods controlling him once again, Kratos refuses to help. The villagers run to escape the beast, and Kratos turns to find that the old man has vanished, as the creature advances towards him. Kratos gives in and fights the Chaos Beast, defeating it with his bare hands. Afterwards, the villagers return, but tremble in fear once again, running off while screaming of a monster. Kratos, confused as the Chaos Beast is dead, turns to see the old man once again, who claims that the threat has not yet been defeated. He turns, and a much larger Chaos Beast emerges from the sea. The villagers beg Kratos to help them once again, but wanting to be left alone, he again simply walks away. The beast follows him, and an annoyed Kratos gives in, lunging at the monster to attack. The giant creature simply shrugs him off, sending Kratos crashing to the ground below, where the impact knocks him unconscious. In his dreams, Kratos finds Athena once again, this time accompanied by Thoth, the Egyptian god of wisdom, and the two tell Kratos that he must fulfill his purpose as it was written, instructing him to finally take the blades of chaos. Kratos tries to deny his fate, but Thoth, revealing himself to be the old man as well as all of the talking animals, simply tells the former god of war that much like in his homelands, in the land of the pharaohs, his destiny is already written and cannot be avoided. Kratos reluctantly succumbs to their reasoning and picks up the blades, awakening back in his battle, which he continues, finally emerging victorious and slaying the Chaos Beast. Exhausted from the battle, Kratos passes out once again, and Thoth states that his purpose in the land of the pharaohs is complete, and his path will carry him to another land that needs him as well. Kratos, frustrated that he is still a slave to fate, but now knowing that there's nothing he can do about it, simply grabs the blades of chaos and continues walking, forced to relive his nightmares in his mind as he journeys towards his destiny, another new land. Decades later, Kratos has found his way to the land of the Norse gods, where he meets a woman named Faye, whom he marries and settles down with in a home in the Wild Woods region of the Midgard realm. The pair soon have a child, who Kratos gives the name Atreus, after a Spartan soldier he fought alongside long ago, and he decides to keep his status as a demigod a secret from the boy. Hoping to learn to control his rage, Kratos frequently ventures out into the woods, where he is attacked by the animals inside. Honing his anger, he learns to refrain from fighting back and instead simply deflect their attacks. However, he soon learns from a large troll that he still doesn't have full control over his emotions. One day, Faye leaves to go hunting, leaving Atreus and Kratos at home. Kratos instructs Atreus to stay behind and chop wood as he heads off to find another challenge for his rage control. He soon comes across a giant bear attacking an old man, and Kratos fails to control himself, violently killing the bear before walking off, blaming the old man for setting off the events that led to him losing control. He leaves him for dead, returning home as another group of men watch him pass through an illusionary wall cloaking his home. Kratos returns to find Atreus playing with toys instead of chopping the wood, but before he can scold the boy, the group of men arrive and begin to speak to Kratos in their tongue, which he cannot understand. Atreus translates and reveals that the men have come to take revenge on Kratos, blaming him for their brother's death. Kratos denies killing anyone, claiming that he only killed a beast, before the men transform into bear-like creatures themselves and engage in battle. Kratos defeats the creatures, killing one threatening Atreus with the axe the boy was to use to cut the wood. When another man threatens to go bring the rest of his clan to the house, Kratos chases him, bringing Atreus along. Frustrated at losing the man's trail, Kratos begins to feel his rage boiling inside, but he is able to control it, just as he tries to teach Atreus to control his own fear. Atreus suggests that the pair visit the Old Seer, who may know more about the clan of Beastmen. Kratos agrees, and Atreus leads the way. Once they arrive at her hut, Kratos speaks with the seer, who reveals that the men are known as berserkers, who receive their strength from their own fury, focusing it through a totem they worship. Kratos asks the location of the totem, and the seer only states that she can reveal the location through a ritual she must perform. Kratos and Atreus wait outside for her answer, and soon she shows them the way to the totem, warning Kratos that he must control his own anger in order to defeat the berserkers. Kratos leaves Atreus with the seer and journeys to the berserkers' camp, where he finds their sacred totem. While Kratos initially tries to sneak past the sleeping berserkers to destroy their idol, one awakens and alerts the rest, as they transform into their bear-like forms. Kratos' rage immediately burns white hot, and he attempts to fight the horde, only to find their own strength surpassing his. Finding himself unable to use his brute strength alone, Kratos remembers the seer's words and centers himself, controlling his rage and thinking quickly to destroy the totem, transforming the berserkers back to their human forms, who he is easily able to kill before burning their encampment to the ground. Back in the seer's hut, the old woman gives Atreus a mysterious knife, telling him he must use it soon. Before he can ask what she means, a berserker arrives in the hut and attacks the seer. Kratos arrives shortly after and snaps the man's neck, instantly killing him. As she lays dying, the seer asks Kratos to take care of her remains, before warning him that while he is able to defeat his enemies with ease, one day he'll have to conquer himself. Kratos exits the woman's hut, and he and Atreus build a funeral pyre for the seer's body. As they walk back home, Kratos tells his son, as well as himself, that from now on, he'll handle the fighting. Not too long after, a dying Fae asks Kratos to scatter her ashes at the highest peak in the Nine Realms. After she passes, Kratos uses her weapon, the Leviathan axe, to chop down a tree marked with her handprint to use for assembling her funeral pyre. While cremating Faye's body, Atreus notices her knife and grabs it, burning his hand in the process. Kratos nurses Atreus' wound, giving the boy his mother's knife. Knowing that now it is his sole responsibility to raise his son, Kratos takes Atreus hunting to prove himself. Atreus grabs his bow, and the pair go looking for deer while Faye's body burns. While Atreus finds a deer, he is unable to calm himself enough to hit it as it runs off. As the pair track the deer, they are attacked by undead draugrs, which Atreus notes have never come that close to their home before. After Kratos fights them off, The pair continue to chase after the deer, and when they find it, Kratos helps his son aim his bow to finally hit and take down their prey. As Kratos and Atreus run over to kill the deer, a giant troll attacks, forcing the father and son to fight it off. Kratos takes the creature down, with Atreus providing support with his bow. After Kratos kills the troll, Atreus runs over and slashes at its corpse, unleashing his own rage and frustration, which causes Kratos to believe he is not yet ready to carry his mother's remains to their destination, despite the boy's protest, claiming that his sickness won't hinder him. They return home, and Kratos collects Faye's ashes into a pouch, solemnly giving his wife one last goodbye. Inside their house, Kratos speaks with Atreus about controlling his anger to use it as a strength instead of a weakness, warning him that their path ahead will be difficult. The pair then hear a strange man outside, yelling at them to come out, as he knows what they are. Kratos hides Atreus under the floorboards before exiting the house to confront the man. The stranger comments that he thought Kratos would be bigger, before attempting to goad him into a fight. Kratos attempts to defuse the situation, but when the stranger refuses to leave, Kratos throws a punch. The stranger shrugs it off and delivers his own, powerfully propelling Kratos into the air and prompting a battle between the two. While the man has his own godlike powers along with an extreme resistance to pain, Kratos is able to hold his own. When the fight moves to the roof of Kratos' home, the stranger notices two beds inside and decides to investigate who Kratos is hiding inside. After trapping Kratos under a pile of rubble, the stranger advances towards the house, triggering the Spartan's rage and allowing him to rush at the man with the full extent of his godlike power. As the battle draws to a close, the stranger reveals that Odin, the Norse god and all-father, sent him to find answers. He then reveals that he can't feel any of the pain Kratos is inflicting on him, forcing him to snap the stranger's neck before throwing him off a nearby cliff. Now knowing that their home is no longer safe, Kratos returns and collects Atreus, taking him with him to embark on their journey to the peak of the highest mountain. On their way up the mountain, Kratos and Atreus reach an overlook where they see that a protective stave was placed around the woods where they lived, but it was broken where Kratos cut down the tree adorned with Faye's handprint, which allowed the stranger to enter. While Kratos is confused as to why Faye would have him cut down the tree protecting their home, the pair nonetheless carry on. Shortly after, the pair are ambushed by a cannibalistic group called the Reavers, and Atreus is forced to kill one of them to protect himself, an act that takes a heavy toll on the boy's consciousness. Kratos tries to convince the boy that he was forced to take the man's life to protect his own, before the Reavers' corpses rise from the dead as Hellwalkers, which the pair fight and defeat again. Continuing on their way, Kratos and Atreus meet a dwarf named Brock, who claims that he and his estranged brother created Faye's Leviathan axe, presenting his brand as proof. Kratos then lets Brock improve the axe, which he is soon able to test out. Further up their path, Atreus spots a strange boar, and draws his bow to practice hunting once again. After his arrow simply bounces off the animal's hide, Atreus gets after it, piercing its skin but losing Kratos after chasing it. When Kratos finds the boy, he is being scolded by a woman, known as the Witch of the Woods, who chastises the men for attempting to kill the last of the boar's kind. Kratos helps to nurse the boar before carrying it back to the witch's home. There, the witch sends Atreus to find supplies for medication, while Kratos stays behind. The woman reveals that she knows the man's true nature, as well as his son's, and she questions his decision to hide that fact from the boy. She warns Kratos that once the gods of this realm find him, they'll be in grave danger, but Kratos simply states that it's his problem to deal with. After Atreus and Kratos retrieve the materials for the medicine, the witch offers her thanks by giving them marks which will hide them from the gods. She then opens a shortcut for them to pass through before they say their goodbyes. The pair find a boat and row to the giant, central Lake of Nine, where they find a rune which Atreus translates to read, "Sacrifice your arms to the center of the water, awaken again the cradle of the world." Kratos then throws the axe into the water, awakening the giant world serpent, Jormungandr, from its deep sleep. The axe returns to Kratos, and as the serpent leaves, the water level of the lake drops, allowing the two to find the temple of the Norse god of war, Tyr, where they again meet Brock. Traversing through the temple, Kratos and Atreus emerge back on the path to the mountain to find another dwarf, Brock's brother Sindri, who also enhances the Leviathan axe. Soon the pair are met by a large ogre, which they defeat to finally reach the base of the tall mountain. As they arrive, however, they find their path blocked by a cloud of black breath. Surprisingly, the Witch of the Woods arrives and tells them that the only thing that can clear the black breath is the light of Alfheim. She leads them back to Tyr's temple, where she shows them a room they can use to travel between the realms. Inside the realm travel room, the witch gives Kratos a Bifrost, an object that will allow him to travel between realms, as well as capture the light of Alfheim. Kratos places the Bifrost inside the room's pedestal, and he turns the temple and its bridge outside to travel to the realm of Alfheim. As the group pass back through the temple to emerge in Alfheim, however, the witch is suddenly pulled from the realm, and she tries to give Kratos a warning about the light, but is interrupted as the doors of the temple lock behind her. Kratos and Atreus travel towards the light of Alfheim and encounter the light and dark elves of the realm, engaged in an endless war. The pair fight through the hostile Dark Elves to reach the central chamber and the source of the light. Kratos enters the light, handing the Leviathan axe to Atreus beforehand. Inside the light, Kratos sees a vision of his journey where he hears Atreus speaking to Faye about his resentment over his father's distance towards him. Kratos then sees Faye, but before he can reach her, he is yanked out of the light by Atreus. The rattled boy yells at Kratos for how long he was inside the light. While Kratos states that he was only inside for mere moments, he looks around to see the remnants of a battle between Atreus and several of the Dark Elves. While Atreus is initially angered by his father abandoning him, the pair press on, with Kratos imbuing his bow with the power of the light of Alfheim that's now contained in the Bifrost. Using this new ability, Atreus and Kratos are able to exit, allowing the remaining Light Elves to re-enter the area. As the pair make their way back to Tyr's temple, they are attacked by the Dark Elf King, who they are able to work together to swiftly defeat. Afterwards, Atreus asks Kratos if he saw Faye in the light, but angrily states that he wouldn't even care if he did, prompting a quick fight between the two, where Kratos reveals that he grieves in his own way. The father and son reconcile, reaching a slightly better understanding of one another. Kratos and Atreus return to the Realm Travel Room and use the Bifrost to return to Midgard, where they make their way back to the mountain. Kratos clears the black breath using the light inside the Bifrost, and the pair are able to make their way inside the mountain, discussing and learning about the giants of Jotunheim who had disappeared from Midgard long ago on their way. After making their way up a tall shaft, being attacked by various enemies on the way, the pair are confronted by a giant dragon. While they are able to escape from it, when they leave the mountain's caverns, they find the dragon outside, attacking Sindri. Kratos battles the dragon, killing it with Atreus' help. To express his gratitude for saving him, Sindri gives Atreus a bundle of braided mistletoe arrows before asking Kratos to retrieve a tooth from the dragon, which he then uses to imbue Atreus' bow with lightning powers. Further up the mountain, Kratos helps Atreus repair his quiver's strap using some of the mistletoe from the arrows. The pair soon spot the stranger who attacked their home, along with two other men speaking to a man with one glowing eye trapped inside of a tree growing around him. The stranger, revealed to be one of Odin's sons, named Balder, probes the man about where Kratos is headed, but the man claims to not know. After Balder and his accomplices leave, Kratos speaks to the man in the tree, who introduces himself as Mimir, the smartest man alive. Mimir reveals that the highest peak in the 9 realms isn't the mountain they're currently on, but rather one in the realm of the giants, Jotunheim. He further explains that only one bridge to Jotunheim still exists, but it is locked away with a rune that only a giant would know. Atreus states that all of the giants left Midgard long ago, but Mimir offers to help them speak with the only remaining one. Mimir then tells Kratos to cut off his head, instructing him to take it to the Witch of the Woods to have her reanimated. Before Kratos does so, Mimir warns him not to keep his secret from Atreus, as the longer he waits, the more damage he does to the boy's psyche. Kratos cuts off Mimir's head and takes it back to the witch. When he and Atreus arrive, the witch spots the boy's mistletoe arrows and demands he give them to her, which he does, before she promptly burns them and warns them about their danger. Afterwards, she helps Kratos revive Mimir's head, and the disembodied man recognizes the witch as the goddess Freya, Odin's former wife, something Kratos becomes angered at her for keeping secret, but she quickly points out his hypocrisy. Kratos and Atreus leave Freya's home once again, now with the company of Mimir, or at least his head, who asks to take him to Tyr's temple, where he can speak to the last remaining giant in Midgard, none other than the World Serpent. At the temple, Mimir blows a giant horn, summoning the World Serpent. He speaks with the giant, who aligns the tower's bridge to where they need to go, the location of a magical chisel that will allow them to draw the rune that will open the gate to Jotunheim. The trio head to the corpse of the chisel's former owner, the giant Thamur. Kratos and Atreus climb the dead giant's hammer, releasing it from the chains holding it up, causing it to fall and smash through the frozen tundra below, allowing the pair to make their way to the chisel. On their way, however, they hear the voices of the two men that were with the stranger when he confronted Mimir, Modi and Magni, two sons of Odin's son Thor. While they try to avoid the two demigods, Modi and Magni soon find Kratos and Atreus, prompting a long and grueling battle. During the battle, Modi taunts Atreus by speaking ill of his mother, which causes the boy to lose control of his anger and go after him. Kratos, meanwhile, violently kills Magni, forcing Modi to run off in fear. Afterwards, Atreus collapses from his sickness, but the pair press on. After reaching the buried chalice, Kratos is able to break off a piece for his own use, and the pair leave, with Mimir warning Kratos that there will be repercussions for killing Thor's son. Mimir surmises that they'll be able to learn the giant's secret rune by finding it in Tyr's hidden vault, below the temple, and they head there to investigate. Using the chisel, Kratos is able to find the vault, where he and Atreus are soon ambushed by Modi. The demigod insults Faye once again, causing Atreus to lunge at him. While Modi simply smacks him aside, Atreus' rage finally boils over, and he has his own moment of Spartan rage, overwhelming him and causing him to collapse. Kratos' own rage then takes hold, and he overpowers Modi, taking his weapons and causing him to flee once again. Kratos grabs the unconscious Atreus and takes him back to Freya at Mimir's suggestion. On their way, Kratos hears someone blowing the World Serpent's horn. When he reaches Freya's hut, the witch reveals that Atreus' true nature is fighting within him, and Kratos keeping it a secret is what is causing the boy's illness. To help him, Freya sends Kratos to the realm of the dead, Helheim, to retrieve the Bridge Keeper's heart. However, due to the realm's frigid nature, Freya warns that the Leviathan axe will be useless against the enemies Kratos will face there. Knowing that Kratos must use the only weapon in the 9 realms that can create a flame, he leaves Atreus in Freya's care and returns home. On his way, Kratos witnesses a haunting vision of someone from his past, the Olympian goddess Athena, who he is able to temporarily shake. When Kratos reaches his home, he retrieves what he came for, the Blades of Chaos, which he buried underneath the house decades prior when he found that he could not escape them. Athena appears before him once again and taunts Kratos, claiming that he'll never be able to change and will forever be a monster. Kratos accepts this fate, but claims that at least he's no longer her monster. With the blades returned to his wrists, Kratos makes his way back to Tyr's temple, where he uses the realm travel room to reach Helheim. There, Mimir notices that Hel has become overwhelmed with the dead. They eventually reach the Bridge of the Damned, where Kratos fights the Bridge Keeper. After killing the large creature, he's able to rip out its heart to take back to Freya. As he goes to leave the realm, Kratos spots an illusion of his father, Zeus, beyond the bridge, but Mimir warns him not to go there, stating that Hel is known to torment its inhabitants with their pasts. On their way back to Midgard, Mimir realizes that Kratos is the legendary ghost of Sparta, and he also encourages him to tell Atreus about his true nature, stating that because Kratos hates all gods, that includes his own son, and Atreus can sense it, and it will only harm their relationship the longer it's kept secret. Kratos brushes this off and returns to Freya's home. Kratos gives Freya the heart, and she tells him that the only way to fully heal Atreus is by telling him the truth. Freya then confides in Kratos and tells him about her own son, who was prophesied to die a needless death, forcing her to make a sacrifice to protect him, which only led to his resentment of her and drove him away. After Freya uses the heart to heal Atreus, the boy awakens and the pair leave, with Kratos giving his thanks to the witch on their way. As the father and son make their way back to Tyr's vault, Atreus grows distant. Kratos asks him about this, and the boy reveals that he overheard part of his father's conversation with Freya, interpreting it to mean that Kratos is disappointed in his son for being weak. Kratos finally gives in and tells his son the truth, that he is a god from a faraway land. Kratos reveals that when he arrived in Midgard, he chose to live as a man, but in truth, he was born a god as was Atreus. Atreus is shocked with this revelation and asks if his mother was a god as well, and Kratos responds that she was only a mortal. When asked why he waited so long to reveal the truth, Kratos tells his son that he had hoped to spare him of the lifetime of tragedy that he himself went through. On their way back to the vault, Atreus notes that he doesn't have any godly powers yet, but Mimir theorizes that the boy's faculty for language is one of them. The pair are finally able to descend below Tyr's temple to his vault and look for the Black Rune. In a room full of treasure from the various lands, Kratos finds a bottle of wine from his homeland, and next to it, a vase depicting his days as the god of war, which he quickly tosses aside, breaking it upon the ground. When the pair find the rune, they must lower it to retrieve it. As Kratos operates the mechanism, however, he is caught in a vine-like trap. Atreus is forced to quickly solve a puzzle related to the prophesized apocalyptic event known as Ragnarok, but when he does so, spikes begin to descend from the ceiling. Atreus is then forced to use his mother's knife to jam the gears operating the spike trap, saving his father, but destroying the boy's heirloom in the process. When the pair finally reach the rune, Kratos gives Atreus a new knife, one he forged himself from metals from his own land, as well as Faye's, on the day of his son's birth, with the intention of gifting it to him when he was ready to use it. Atreus then uses the knife to retrieve the rune, and he takes note of it before the pair are attacked by a pair of two large trolls. After the battle, the pair return to the surface, and Kratos gives Atreus a drink of the wine he found from his homeland on the way. Kratos and Atreus make their way back to the gateway to Jotunheim, seeing Sindri on their way. Atreus, now arrogant and empowered by his knowledge of being a god, insults the dwarf, leaving him visibly hurt. This leads Kratos to ask how his mother would react to Atreus behaving this way, but the boy brushes it off, implying that her opinion wouldn't matter seeing as she wasn't a god. Kratos, retorting that she was better than a god, warns his son against dishonoring his mother. As they enter the caverns in the mountain, Kratos and Atreus are again stopped by Modi, now badly beaten by his father Odin, who had blamed him for his brother's death. The man collapses, and Atreus goes to kill the man for what he said about his mother. Kratos simply states that he isn't worth it, but when Modi makes one final insult towards Faye, Atreus stabs him in the neck with his new blade before kicking him off a nearby ledge. Kratos scolds the boy for killing an already defeated enemy in indulgence instead of in defense, and he further warns that there are especially consequences for killing gods. The two reach the summit of the mountain, and Atreus draws the rune on the gateway, allowing Kratos to use the chisel to trace it and open the portal to Jotunheim. Before they can enter, however, Kratos is ambushed by Baldur, and when Atreus attempts to help, he reveals that he is also a god, but is quickly overpowered. Kratos grabs Baldur and slams him into the stone gate, collapsing it and destroying their only way to Jotunheim. Atreus tries to fight, but Kratos holds him back, forcing the boy to shoot his father with one of his lightning arrows to subdue him. Atreus then rushes at Baldur, stabbing him with his knife, but the invincible man simply pulls it out of his arm and plants it in Atreus's, grabbing the boy and jumping off the mountain. Kratos follows and lands on Baldur's dragon, where he fights the man, eventually getting knocked off the dragon to the bridge of Tyr's temple below. Kratos runs inside the temple and reaches the realm travel room, where he finds that Baldur has locked in the bridge to the realm of Asgard, the home of Odin and the other gods of his tribe. Kratos struggles to insert his Bifrost and instead locks the bridge into Helheim, where he, Atreus, and Baldur are violently sucked in. There, Kratos is able to knock Baldur aside, and he and Atreus land safely within the realm. After Kratos scolds his son for acting out of character, asking him to honor his mother and choose the right path, the pair work their way to a boat they can use to get back to Tyr's temple. On their way, the pair experience visions of Atreus' past, Helheim's way of torturing its inhabitants, and the boy watches how he killed Modi in shame. The pair soon find Baldur reliving one of his own memories, and they learn that he is none other than Freya's estranged son. As it turns out, when she placed a spell on him to make him invincible, he was robbed not only of the feeling of pain, but also any of the pleasures of life. He begged his mother to remove the spell, but knowing it would cause her son's death, she refused. This caused Baldur to strangle his mother, but at the last moment, he allowed her to live, a decision he now regrets. When Kratos and Atreus reach the boat, they begin to see visions of Kratos' past, that of his final battle with Zeus. After getting the boat to set sail upwards towards the bridge, the pair watch the memory of Kratos killing his father, and Atreus is forced to snap his father's attention back to the task at hand as the ship begins to crash. The pair jump to a nearby building, crashing through the roof and landing inside of one of Odin's secret chambers. There, Atreus finds a panel depicting Tyr somehow traveling to different lands, including Kratos' own homeland. Using the gift of sight granted to him by the giants, Mimir is able to uncover secret plans on the panel to create a key for another chamber Tyr kept hidden, which will lead them to Jotunheim. Hoping to create the key, the group head back to Brock, realizing that when Freya reanimated Mimir's head, she placed a spell on him to never speak about her relationship to Baldur or what his one weakness is. When they reach Brock, he refuses to make the key, but Sindri arrives shortly after to reconcile with his brother and help forge it. Kratos and Atreus find the secret chamber and open it with the key, finding themselves below the realm travel room in a seemingly upside-down room. The pair work to break the chains holding the temple's chambers, and Kratos is able to flip it using his brute strength. When they climb back up to the realm travel room, they find what Tyr was hiding, the Unity Stone, which allowed Tyr to travel within the realm between realms to reach all of the lands he explored. Using the stone, Kratos enters the realm between realms and jumps into the void, landing safely to find the tower to Jotunheim, hidden there by Tyr to protect the realm of the giants. Inside the tower, Kratos finds a pedestal that absorbs the Unity Stone and unleashes various powerful enemies from the various realms Kratos and Atreus traveled. After the grueling battle, the pair emerge from the tower to find themselves back in Midgard, with the tower to Jotunheim returned to a location the Bridge of Tyr's temple can reach. When they enter the realm travel room to lock in the bridge, however, Mimir realizes the travel crystal is missing, and in order to travel, the pair will need to find his other eye, which was taken by Odin. They ask Brock and Sindri if they know where Mimir's other eye is, and Brock reveals that Odin placed it in a statue of Thor, which Kratos and Atreus saw swallowed by the world serpent. Mimir blows the serpent's horn once again and asks if they can investigate his stomach for the eye, which the ancient giant agrees to, and the group grab their boat and row inside. There they are able to find Mimir's eye and return it to his head. Now with everything required to reach Jotunheim, the pair row their boat back out of the creature. On the way, however, they begin to feel massive blasts outside. Soon the creature spits them out, and they land nearby as the world serpent falls unconscious. Freya arrives, confused as to what happened to the serpent. She claims to be looking for her son, but is surprised to find Kratos and Atreus meeting her with suspicion. Shortly after, Baldur emerges from the waters nearby, shocked to find his mother with his targets. Baldur threatens his mother, but Kratos steps between them, trying to tell the man that he will find no peace in vengeance. When Baldur refuses to listen, another fight between the two breaks out, with Freya attempting to stop the two. Atreus attempts to stop Baldur, but the man delivers a mighty punch to the boy's chest. Kratos catches his son, worried that the boy is covered in blood, which Atreus simply states isn't his. Kratos looks up to see Baldur with the mistletoe from Atreus' repaired quiver lodged in his hand, with the man delighted that he can finally feel something. Nearby, Freya, realizing that the spell protecting her son had been broken by his one weakness, reanimates the corpse of the giant Thamor, which grabs them and carries them off to a new location. Baldur follows, and another fight ensues, with the giddy man now enjoying the feeling of battle. While Freya continues to try to use Thamor's body to interrupt the fight, Kratos is able to gain the upper hand, eventually causing the woman to have Thamor use his frosty breath to freeze them. Atreus thinks quickly and uses his abilities to speak the old language of the giants to call upon the now awakened world serpent to take the giant's corpse out of the equation. Afterwards, Kratos begins to strangle Baldur, but Atreus reminds him that he doesn't need to kill a beaten enemy. Kratos gives Baldur one final warning to leave him, Atreus, and Freya alone before walking off. Baldur ignores this warning and approaches his mother, refusing to forgive her, and instead begins to strangle her, which she accepts if it'll make him feel better. Kratos then grabs Baldur and quotes his father Zeus, stating, "The cycle ends here," before also stating that we must be better than this, before snapping the man's neck. In his last breath, Baldur sees the snow beginning to fall as he finally dies his needless death. Freya rushes over to his body and promises Kratos that she will use all of her abilities to punish him for what he has taken from her. She states that Kratos is a cruel and rage-filled animal who will never change, and asks if Atreus knows the true depths of his father's past. Kratos then reveals his true history to his son, telling him about the deal he made with a god and how it led him to killing the innocent, the guilty, and even his own father. Atreus asks if he will be cursed to kill Kratos, but the Spartan simply states that we will be the gods we choose to be, not those who have been. Freya then picks up Baldur's body and walks off without saying another word. The pair return to Tyr's temple one last time and lock in Jotunheim in the realm travel room. Atreus uses Mimir's head to focus the energy to travel, and the door to the realm of the giants is finally unlocked. Mimir requests that they leave him behind so the father and son can have their moment, and Kratos leaves him with Brock and Sindri at the temple. As they approach the summit of the mountain, Kratos removes the bandages covering his scars from the Blades of Chaos, claiming that he no longer has anything to hide. He then hands Faye's ashes to Atreus, allowing him to carry them the rest of the way. The pair find a room with statues depicting the giants' exodus from Midgard. They wonder why Faye sent them there, but Atreus touches a wall, revealing a large mural. The pair are shocked to see that the mural depicts Faye, as well as all of the events the father and son had lived through, including the battle that just happened. Kratos surmises that the mural depicts Atreus' story, and that he wasn't the only parent with secrets. Atreus then realizes that Faye was a giant, making him part god, part giant, and part mortal. Kratos also realizes that Baldur was never looking for him, but rather had been sent by Odin to find Faye. As Atreus continues up the mountain, Kratos spots one last panel depicting Atreus screaming in pain while holding a man's dead body. Finally, at the peak of the highest mountain in the Nine Realms, Atreus and Kratos look around to see the remains of dead giants. Kratos, finally calling Atreus son, elects that the two scatter Faye's ashes together. The two then say their goodbyes to Faye as her remains join those of her kind. Afterwards, Atreus reveals one last thing confusing him about the mural. When translated, he was referred to by the giants as Loki. Kratos recalls that this was the name Faye wanted to give Atreus when he was born, but he elects to save this mystery for another day. Kratos and Atreus return to the realm travel room to regroup with Mimir, and as they return to Midgard, he warns that their actions have accelerated the coming of the great Fimbulwinter, which precedes Ragnarok. Atreus and Kratos return to their home and finally rest. In his sleep, Atreus sees a vision of the end of the winter years later, in which a powerful lightning storm rips apart their house. When Kratos and Atreus approach the door, they see a large, hooded figure standing outside. Kratos asks who he is, and the man simply reveals a hammer, the legendary Mjolnir, revealing that the figure is none other than Odin's son, the god of thunder himself, Thor. While this is only a vision, the pair nonetheless set forth with trying to prevent Ragnarok, with help from some familiar faces as well as new ones, while also facing opposition from those they once knew and those they'll soon meet in the next chapter of their journey, God of War, Ragnarok. Hey everybody, thanks for sticking through. This one wound up being on the longer side, but I really wanted to dive into the events of the game, as it's the most story-heavy installment in the series by far. I do want to thank my patrons and channel members on screen now. You can become one of them by helping support and clicking the links below. Make sure you check out my socials, specifically Twitter, for updates on what I'll be working on, and make sure you subscribe so you can see the videos once I'm done. As always, leave a like if you enjoyed this, and comment suggesting what you'd like to see next. Thanks again, guys. See you next time.